Great Krypton Rush has finally been added to DC Dark Legion, and I had an opportunity to play it this past weekend. My main account, as you may know, is on server 204, which is one of the sort of soft launch or like early pre-global launch servers. I really enjoyed the event, and I thought I would give you some of my first impressions for the event. And we're also going to be looking at actual footage from the match that we had. I will say I hate to use the footage because we went up against a league that didn't have all of their members present. We actually only had maybe 11 or 12 present out of the 20 that you're allowed to have in the match. So it definitely was not a even match at all. And so you're going to see us kind of beating up on a team that typically I think probably would have more people there. But it was 5 p.m. U.S. Eastern time when the event happened. And I think some of them may have been trying to go to sleep. The league we went against, I believe, is German. So keep that in mind. But I think you'll get a general idea for how the game mode should work. And we'll talk through all the different resources that you can gather, all of the nodes that you need to be occupying during the match, and just maybe some general takeaways towards the end of the video. So with that in mind, I hope you enjoy. Okay, so we're getting ready to enter the match, and you're going to be presented with a map system that's very similar to Guardian Challenge. You're going to, on the left-hand side, you're going to have your league. On the right-hand side, you're going to have home base for the opponent. And you'll see that the map is sort of symmetrical in a lot of ways. So you're going to have the same building positions on each side of the map, but sometimes the buildings are actually different. So you'll have treatment rooms and energy shields and all these different material storage. There's like a weapons depot, and each one is going to provide you a different status effect or attack enhancement or defense enhancement for your squads in battle, and as well as defense. I'm just kind of like scanning the map here, trying to get a lay of the land, figure out exactly what each side has. You'll notice that, and I'll probably go to it in a moment, but there's a spaceship in the very middle of the map. And then there's sort of this plus sign, I suppose, where there are items above, below, left, and right on the, like around the spaceship. Those nodes take a few minutes to open up on the map. So the spaceship is going to take 20 minutes to open up. The other depots in that plus sign configuration are going to take 10 minutes to open up. The other items you can immediately go for. So there's 4 production buildings on your side of the map that you can push for. There's 4 on your opponent's side of the map that you can immediately go for and try to push them out of. And so that's what you really want to be focusing on to start out with, is trying to, obviously you're going to have people immediately put their best squads in those 4 production buildings that you can claim to start the match. And then you'll end up kind of pushing forward from there. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different strategies that you can employ. I don't want to talk too much about strategy, but at least in this video, but I'm just going to try to give you a basic overview of kind of how you want to accomplish things. And you'll see me constantly scanning the map and going into the coordinated assault screen where I can kind of see who's sending assaults and kind of who's where. I'm also looking at the little eye icon on the enemy production buildings, trying to figure out who's there, how big their squad is, how tough they are. There were a couple of people on this enemy team that were really good. They had really good squads, and so we kind of had some difficulty taking some of those resource nodes throughout the match. You know, to start this match out, it felt like it might actually be a little bit more competitive, but we ended up getting a few extra people to join at some point right after what you're seeing right now, and it just kind of became a landslide once we got a general feel for how the mode should work. One thing we're trying to do early on is make sure that all of our production buildings on our side of the map are doubled up. So you can have 2 squads in each one defending, and you're going to be getting 60 kryptonite crystals for every 10 seconds for each squad that's in these production buildings. It's a nice passive way to earn some income and get things started. We're looking at trying to push some of these production buildings on the enemy side of the map at this point. We've got all the other ones shored up, but then we noticed that these crystal piles appear on the map. Now, these crystal piles start out, they're worth 2,000 kryptonite crystals each, and then towards the end of the map, it actually increases. I think it more than doubles, and I think maybe it's around 140%. You'll probably see it come up on the screen at some point. But we're pushing to a lot of these crystal piles. We're going to get the ones on our side, and then I think we end up trying to go for some of the piles on the opponent side. Now, this is very similar to trying to seize the production buildings on the Guardian Challenge map. If you are occupying one of the crystal piles, someone from the opposing team can push. You can see actually one of my squads is recovering. It might have been from getting pushed out of one of these, but basically you can kind of set someone by pushing their crystal pile and pushing them out of it. This is really how you start racking up a lot of resources. Is you want to make sure whoever's in the match, assuming that both sides have 20 people, you want to have your lowest squads, like the people with the smallest squads going for the crystal piles on your side. You should only be pushing the crystal piles on the opponent side with your best squads and people that know they can actually win them. I'll point out here, you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's now a match chat. So you'll actually be able to go in and talk to your teammates while the match is going on. I think it may persist for a few minutes after the match is over with, but you'll be able to have specific discussion about the match. I think this is something that will be implemented for Guardian Challenge as well going forward. But it's very helpful to be able to have those conversations outside of what's going on in the league, especially considering that only 20 to 30 of your league members will be able to participate in this mode in the first place. So there might be other discussions going on. You can kind of keep the match chat into one place. And people from the league will be able to spectate this match, people who are not participating, and they'll be able to kind of do call outs for you in the match chat as well, which is nice. We're coming up on 1 minute left before these 4 additional resource nodes around the spaceship core will come available. And so that's kind of signifying the next phase of the match, where there's definitely going to be some more contesting of nodes, and it's going to be a bit more difficult with the fighting, because you're going to start having to use additional squads for kind of holding those down. I think in a match that's more of a fair fight, you're going to have situations where those nodes are going to be constantly contested. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And you can see some of the attribute bonuses here for all the different items. You got crystal production for the material storage. Energy shield gives defense and men. Treatment room is healing up. You've got the weapons depot are going to give you attack. You can also see here that there is a timeline. We kind of already talked about it. All the additional strongholds becoming contestable after 10 minutes. The spaceship becoming contestable after 20 minutes. You just saw on screen, you can click on your opponent, and it provides you a little bit of information on both squads or both leagues, all of the production buildings that they own and how many resources they're bringing in. So it really helps you figure out whether you're on track to win the match or not. We're coming up on 6 minutes before the spaceship core opens up, and we actually have someone who's trying to push the recovery center, which is one of the remaining items that we were trying to get. We're definitely trying to put a lot of pressure on their side of the board, and I think you're going to see that in a lot of matches where, that's kind of the idea, is to push over into the enemy territory. You definitely want to own a few things on their side and prevent them from getting yours. It's pretty standard fare for strategy games, but We're definitely trying to put a lot of pressure. We want to own those 4 nodes around the spaceship core. The idea is it provides at least a little bit of protection to the spaceship core if we're able to take it. And obviously, it's just going to, the more of these nodes that you're able to own, the more production, the more kryptonite crystal production that you're going to get. And you can see that crystal piles just open back up on the map. You get quite a few of them this time. I don't know if there's a different amount each time that they pop up. The second set of piles that come up on the map, you can see is worth 2,000 kryptonite crystals each. We've got plenty of people pushing out to them. We're also pushing over to the other side of the board. Again, you definitely want to be prioritizing those crystal piles, especially if you're down in the match. Like, you know, at this point, I think maybe the opponent had already started to lose faith that they had a chance to win. We've got 11 players to their 5 here, but they really should have been pushing for those crystal piles to try to generate some additional resources. And I think this is kind of the turning point where we really had already won the match. We end up getting well over 1 million points in the match, but this was kind of where we felt like we had it in the bag. And the spaceship core hasn't even popped up yet. So I think a lot of you guys are going to experience something much different than us here. I really hope that these matches are more contested in the future. Nobody wants to go into a match and just win every time without having to fight at all. One thing you'll notice on the map screen, the mini map screen, is that we had a lot of the buildings flagged, and at some point we realized we had way too many flags going on. We ended up taking some of those off. You'll probably see that at some point in the battle, but you know, you really want to be utilizing those flags to mark things that you're trying to go after. And early on in the match, here you can see me actually taking some of the flags off. You want to flag those ones that are closest to your base so that you can prioritize those, get them done. And then once that's taken care of, you want to make sure that you flag a few items on the other side of the map, places that are problematic. Anytime someone's attacking a specific node that you're trying to go after, you want to prioritize that. Now, I'm selecting the spaceship core here because I was trying to test it out, but I'm selecting the spaceship core because obviously in a minute we want to be ready to attack that. And then I think we've got a couple of the other items flagged on the other side of the map. We flagged this weapons depot. That's going to give us a lot of additional attack. All right, now you've got the spaceship core is now contestable, so we'll end up initiating several assaults on the spaceship core. I'm just zoning out to check what we have and what we're trying to take back. We did lose that productive building up north, but we've got plenty of people pushing for those. We also have a lot of people initiating assaults against the spaceship core. Those are about to start hitting in just a second. It's really easy to fight against the AI enemies, I suppose you would say, to take the spaceship core, but then obviously immediately you're going to get hit by your opponents. We do end up getting to the spaceship core faster than the other side, so it kind of gives us a big advantage. You can see the amount of resources that you're able to gain by holding the spaceship core is massive in comparison to what you're able to obtain from all the other nodes. Now, it kind of runs hand in hand. Obviously, you want to make sure you own a lot of the resource nodes or the productive buildings around the map, which is going to give you a lot of the attack, defense, all the other attributes that you're going to need to be able to defend the spaceship core. But the end goal for this match is to own that spaceship core for as long as possible, because you're going to get a massive amount of points for having ships or squads parked there. Okay, so you will see that they've got a couple of ships coming in to fight us here. And one thing that I noticed about how the combat works for the spaceship core is you're going to have, each time there's a fight, it seems to cycle through the squads that are available there. So they just fought against one of our people, Dark Knight, and now they're fighting against Chloe. I believe the next time a fight is initiated, it's going to go against Denny, which is the the third ship that we had available here. I'm not sure if we'll see that immediately. Again, I'm scanning the field trying to figure out whether there's anything that I can do with my additional rosters. Obviously, I'm trying to keep a squad open so that I can go after the crystal piles if they pop up, or I can join another squad if I need to. In hindsight, I probably should have just had something somewhere, and you can always pull it out. We're looking at the attribute bonuses here. You can see some of those additional buildings that we obtained. We're getting basically double of a lot of the different attribute bonuses. Again, I think this is sort of unrealistic for what you're going to see in a lot of matches, especially if those matches are fairly equal in power and you get a opponent who is on a similar time zone to you or has people that are able to get on. Looks like we do have an enemy coming up to try to contest the spaceship core again, so I'm hoping I will look into that and see how that fight goes. I find it amusing that they need to fix the character profile pictures because they're all just green arrow. Here we go. So yeah, they did fight against Denny, and I think this should confirm that they're basically going to go round robin every time an enemy fights one of the defensive squads. It's going to go to the next one. So I believe the next fight would potentially go up against Rildo here. You'll notice also that those squads probably need to be pulled and reinitiated because several of them only have a couple of people in the squads now that they've been attacked. But that's definitely something that we end up doing. Here we have another crystal pile that popped up. And these crystal piles are again worth the 2,000. I believe, again, this is going to change at the 10-minute remaining mark whenever that last milestone hits. When that last milestone hits, where I believe it's 160% of a resource gain. So we'll get one more set of crystal piles that has a considerable amount more in it. Here's another picture for the resource gain or resource production. Taking a look at the scores here, you can see that we're owning pretty much all of the resources on the entire map at this point. One thing I'll say, and if you're playing competitively with Guardian Challenge or any other game mode like this, it can be probably deflating if you're on the opposite side of a landslide victory like this, but you really do have to be hyper vigilant against sort of comebacks in game modes like this. I'm not saying that it would be possible to come back from basically 90%, 10% point split right here, but I do think you definitely need to have people in the match the entire time the match is going on, making sure that you're watching everything, doing call outs, and treating it as if it is a lot closer, because it's just going to help you prepare for matches that actually are close. So we hit the core stage. Kryptonian crystal production increases by 140%. I misspoke earlier. I think I said 160. I was checking to see whether these bonuses changed at all. Here's a look at the rules on how you can earn crystals. Now, I believe when the 5-minute mark hits, we should get the final crystal pile for the match. Kind of a last mad dash to try to get a few extra points. And there you go. Here's a crystal surge. And as I mentioned before, this last crystal surge is for 4,000 points apiece. I think in a more contested or close match, this last crystal surge could be quite significant, especially if you're kind of trading back and forth and both sides own most of the production buildings for their side of the map. It's really going to come down to, can you get most of these final crystal piles and own that spaceship for the last 10 minutes or so of the match. Overall, I think my impression of this game mode, it definitely gives off some of those Guardian Challenge vibes, but it also kind of elicits some memories of games like World of Warcraft, even if you can follow me here for a second, where I think Arathi Basin is probably a good example, where you have a map with both sides have sort of a home base, and there are 3 or 4 resource nodes on the map that you have to go take, and they're kind of heavily contested. It's just more of a top-down view, like RTS view for for that type of game mode. And those are like some of the more fun PvP modes out there. So I actually think they nailed the execution of the actual match style and, you know, the setup for this game mode. I hate that only 20 people, technically 30, I guess, because you have the stand-ins that can try to join the match if you don't have your 20 primary there at the first 5 minutes of the match. But I think, you know, that's one of the big downsides is not the entire league cannot participate. They really did nail the match style. The other big downside to this event is the rewards are frankly trash. I think it's crazy that the winner gets 2 anvils and the loser gets 1. I mean, they're really going to have to do something to adjust the resource acquisition for the winners and losers on these matches. Something I didn't point out before, I do appreciate that up in the top left you have that little green arrow and it tells you 13, which is it tells you the number of resource nodes or productive buildings that you own on the map. Kind of helps you keep track of that sort of thing. And obviously you've seen me click on it several times. So closing in on the last 30 seconds of the match, I just want to say, yeah, I feel like, again, as I said a few moments ago, the amount of rewards that you get for doing this game mode, it's not worth it. I do think it's a fun mode. I just don't know that I want to spend 40 minutes to an hour of my Sunday every week playing a mode that I don't really get much reward for other than winning. And in a situation like this, I actually feel bad that we ended up fighting a team that wasn't able to bring their full set of people to the match. Well, that's going to do it for this intro video for Krypton Rush. I hope you enjoyed me breaking down kind of how the game mode works and going through some of the footage of our match. I'm looking forward to doing more videos on Great Krypton Rush in the future. If you have any questions about the game mode or if there's anything you want to discuss, please leave a comment below. I love to discuss these things with you as a community. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing. I do a lot of DC Dark Legion content on this channel. I'm also looking at doing some content for other games on the channel as well, here and there, things that I enjoy playing. So definitely subscribe if you enjoy hearing me talk, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.